Hi everyone, welcome to Advanced Cell Biology. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all, even though it unfortunately has to be remotely, but still seeing you all and working with you and learning together over the course of the semester. So I wanted to give a little bit of an orientation on the course and the plans. I've done as much as I can to keep the course format the same as it would normally be if we were face-to-face, because I really think that format works well. It's a little bit unique, and we'll talk about it here, but it has worked very, very well in the past. Students tend to learn a ton, and it really is done in a way where I truly believe that the students remember and really understand a lot of the concepts that we're going to get to, and that's been very beneficial both in job and research, as teachers, as graduate students, and as medical students. So I think the format works, and therefore I wanted to keep it that way as much as possible. Obviously we have some unique challenges with the remote learning in terms of determining synchronous and asynchronous. I did want to show one thing really quick. These are the results of the survey. So as you can see, I do appreciate everyone's responses, but they were pretty much unhelpful because we have an almost equal pie for completely asynchronous all the way to completely synchronous and everything in between. There was a bit more consensus on a lot of the lab stuff and bioethics stuff where we have a combination of asynchronous followed by synchronous wrap-ups and things like that. So we will kind of work that in there. But basically, based on that, I've basically decided that we're going to do about half asynchronous and half synchronous, and I've tried to determine kind of where the synchronous would work best and where asynchronous will work fine. The only problem with that is kind of based on the course, it means that we can't necessarily have a consistent weekly schedule where Monday is always asynchronous, Wednesday synchronous, and Friday always asynchronous or something like that, because the units go a lot further than 1 week, and there are parts of this course that are probably going to be more amenable to asynchronous versus synchronous, and so we'll describe that along the way. All right, so what are we doing? Here's the syllabus. This is available in Canvas, so I'm not going to insult you by reading through this. You guys can read through, but there's great information here. Look through the learning outcomes, look for the evaluation and grading. This course format is where you're going to want to spend a little bit of time really looking into it, because this is the unique aspect of this. Sorry. Essentially, the way this works is most of the units, so there are 6 units total, and with the exception of 2 units, 4 of them are going to be in this jigsaw format. This is where you are assigned to different groups, and each of those groups is assigned to a portion of that unit. So you're going to read a portion of that unit. You're actually going to become an expert based on kind of worksheets and things that I've guided you through. You're going to become an expert on that portion of the unit. And then you are going to teach people in a mixed group. So you're going to be grouped with people that had the other portions of that unit, and you're going to teach each other at first. And this is wonderful because this is what science is all about. You have to become an expert on certain parts, but you can't be an expert on everything. So then you need to learn and communicate with others on other parts of it. And so that really is science. That's actually a way a lot of med school information is learned as well. And also, there is so much information here that if you were to read through the whole textbook and things like that, I think it would be very problematic. So this tends to work. Now, before you get too worried, I am not depending on you to teach each other completely, right? I'm not assuming that after that mixed group teaching, you are going to have learned everything perfectly from your students and then we just move forward. That is the first part of each unit, and then there's a lot of kind of more lecture and group work together where we're using all that information, we're clarifying the parts that people had difficulties with, and we're using that information really to combine and do higher order learning, all right? So essentially, for each of those units, you've got an introduction day, then you've got a day where you're going to meet with the same group. These are people that had the same portion is you, and that way you can kind of help clarify misconceptions and things you struggled with each other. Then there are 2 days of mixed group work, and this is where you're going to kind of teach each other. All right, and a couple of things along the way. So in your portion, there's a worksheet that's going to guide you through the reading. So you'll be assigned a certain amount of reading. There's a worksheet to kind of guide you through that, and then you are going to create a 2-page summary giving the key points and kind of the key figures that you want to give to the other students. And then in the mixed group work, when you're teaching each other, you'll get those 2-page summaries from everyone, so you'll kind of have that synopsis, that high-level take-home message synopsis of all the different work. And then basically in 4 days after that, this is the concept clarification and group problem work. So this is the more normal lecture and discussion where I'm working with everyone and we are really working together to apply some of those things. So the basic information really starts to get out of the way here, and the real high order aspects get out of the way here. And it really does work for a couple reasons. I've talked about some already, but this also means that even though you might not perfectly understand it from your peers, although you'll find that you guys get pretty good at teaching this, by hearing those terms and kind of getting some of the initial aspects, this really primes you to learn it really well when we kind of go over it together. And by the end of this, between reading, same group, mixed group, concept clarification, you've kind of heard a lot of these concepts and used them over and over again so that they really start to stick in your mind. And when you go back and review and for the exam and so forth, oftentimes students really find that they didn't have to review nearly as much as they thought because they were using all these things along the way. All right? So the various homework descriptions are here, so read through those. There's the individual worksheets that guide you through your portion, the 2-page summaries I talked about a little bit. Then there's problems that you're going to work together in the mixed group, and we'll go through a lot of these together in class. One more thing, kind of a mixed group teaching discussion board. So in addition to teaching each other synchronously, I want everyone to kind of pick the 2 key figures, the ones that they think are most difficult or the most key for their section, and you're going to create a discussion board video that students can come back to and kind of revisit and relearn there. So that's kind of the asynchronous portion of this as well. I've created a few crossword puzzles to help you learn some terms in a hopefully fun way. You don't have to do all of them. You have to do them for Unit 1 and 3 of the last 5 units. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And then with all of these groups, one group for each unit will have a primary literature article that's related to that. And so one time throughout the semester, you and your group are going to present that primary literature article together. So for Unit 2, for example, it's Group 4 that'll present a primary literature article. And then for Unit 3, it's Group 3. And then Unit 5, it's Group 2. And Group 1 does it for Unit 6. So every group will have the primary literature article in place of kind of the parts of the textbook. They'll all have it once. Now, this is what I wanted to get to. So I'm going to skip Unit 1 for a second because I want to go to the format where all of these things are. So here's Unit 2. This starts our jigsaw units. So you can see that we have a Unit 2 introduction, and my plan is to have that asynchronous. So here are the dates, and if you see an S by it, that's going to be a synchronous class. If you see an A by it, that's asynchronous, meaning I will create videos and some activities for you to learn from that instead. So Unit 2 introduction, this is just kind of getting everyone on the same page, some basic information, really important information on Unit 2. Now, the next day is always the group work, same groups. So your individual worksheet, that portion where you've read that assigned part, is due on the 2nd day of that unit work. So that means you probably want to be working on this several days before, because this is probably the hardest part, most homework intensive part of each unit. And then on that day, we're going to work in same groups. So this is going to be synchronous, and you'll go into your same groups in Zoom breakouts, and I'll pop in and I'll really help you guys kind of clarify some concepts, but hopefully the worksheets that you've gone over that are due before you get to that same groups, hopefully that will kind of really have helped you, guide you through what I expect you to learn. So your individual worksheet is due prior to that day in class so that you are prepared to work with your same groups and plan that. And this is also where the group with the primary literature article can really work on plans for presenting that article and get help from me and so forth. All right, then after that, the next 2 days are mixed group teaching, and so we're also going to do this synchronous. There is a chance that if this becomes problematic, we can set up, make it asynchronous, and you can kind of find time to teach each other. But I think this will work well because then you can have the breakout rooms. You can just teach each other your different portions, about 20 or 30 minutes each. So one group, one person will teach for about 30 minutes, kind of get through all of their key figures. Then the next person, and we'll cover that over the course of a couple days. And in the meantime, I'm jumping in and out of all the breakout groups and really helping out as we go. In order to do that, though, your 2-page summary of that work is due prior to the start of that peer teaching. And then kind of after all this is where I want you to pick the 2 key figures that you think are the most difficult, and you're just going to create a discussion board video kind of walking through those 2 key figures. And this doesn't have to be very long, but it should be thorough and kind of informative. This is a great way to practice your presentation skills, your teaching skills, and help you understand that figure and your peers as well. And then we get to the concept clarification part. I've basically made it so that 2 of the 4 of these concept clarifications will be videos, kind of asynchronous stuff, and 2 will be synchronous. We'll work on a lot of the mixed group problems together when we're synchronous. And then those mixed group problems, this is you're going to turn in 1 per mixed group. So for a group of 5 that kind of were in the mixed group, work on it all together. Those are due at the end of that. And then we've got our first exam, and then the units start again. Unit 3 introduction, then the group, same group work, mixed group work, concept clarification, and so forth. And so you can kind of start to see the pattern for asynchronous, synchronous, and so forth. The 2 exceptions to this are Unit 1, which is a little bit shorter. I'll be basically teaching Unit 1 directly. Obviously still there's some worksheets and some things like that, the practice problems, but this is just a more normal non-jigsaw format. And then by the time we get to Unit 4, I decided that in this format with a lot of things, that unit's going to be a little bit of a break. There's still really important information that we're going to learn, but you guys don't have to do the individual worksheets and so forth for this one as well. So we'll have this one be a little bit shorter unit, kind of a 2-week break from that format, and then Unit 5 gets right back into that introduction, same groups, mixed group, concept clarification, and so forth. And we finish off with Unit 6, same thing with it's on cancer. All right, so that's the format there. I will try to figure out if there's a easy way to make it known which days are synchronous and asynchronous within Canvas. But so far, when I make a Zoom, it just kind of repeats it for all the days. And I don't want to make a different Zoom link for every day because that would be even harder. So you might just have to pay attention to this schedule and the weekly overview that I have in Canvas. All right, so speaking of Canvas, let's jump back there for a second. Meet your instructor, just some information on who I am and so forth. Can just be a fun little 2-minute thing to run through, hopefully. Syllabus is really important. That's what we just went through. But then ultimately you're going to go to modules. All right. So the first module is just kind of a lot of the general course information, course orientation, assigned groups. So you're assigned groups for the unit work. So it's important to know if you're in Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, or Group 4, and so forth. All right. And so the reason that's important is let's just jump down to Unit 2. So Unit 2, there's kind of the overview of Unit 2, learning objectives. This is the group reading assignments. So you know Group 1 is going to read this part of Chapter 10 in our textbook, Group 2 this part combined with a little bit of 11, Group 3 this part of Chapter 11, and Group 4 has the primary literature article in this case. All right? So the worksheets can also be found here. So here's the worksheets that you're going to complete with those different parts. So you can just download this and complete the worksheet. And then you're going to submit that, remember, prior to the class with the same groups. You can also find your 2-page summaries, and I've created a sample 2-page summary from Unit 1. So in Unit 1 and up here in course information, you can see a sample 2-page summary and so forth, so you get an idea of what we're looking for. But essentially, I've organized Canvas in 2 ways. each unit has kind of the information you need for that unit directly, and then everything is also week by week. So you'll see that course orientation, this is a what we're doing each day, and on here is where I will also put synchronous versus asynchronous. So you'll see that along the way, in addition to the course schedule that you have. Then Unit 2, you can see the group reading assignments, the worksheets, the 2-page summary homework, crossword, mixed group problems, but you can also see them put together in the various weeks along the way. So basically this just follows exactly the schedule in the syllabus that I showed you, so you can kind of have it there on Canvas guiding you through what to do, and you also have the calendar, the course schedule in the syllabus, if that's the way you prefer to do it, or you've got both of those there. All right, let's talk about a couple of other things, and then I will let you go. I know this is taking a while. The lab. So basically what we're doing for lab is a couple of things. We are doing our Henrietta Lacks discussions. All right, so the discussions of Henrietta Lacks will have a discussion board, and you can see the information on those discussion boards right up here. All right, and they're kind of a smaller group discussion, so you've been fairly randomly put into groups of 5 with those Henrietta Lacks discussions, but there's discussion 1, discussion 2, discussion 3, and kind of on the course syllabus you'll see when those are due and so forth. All right, so that will happen. Those final discussions you're going to discuss on discussion board, and then we'll do a discussion together in lab as well, just kind of a overview. The other things we're doing in lab is key techniques. So key techniques means that essentially we are going to learn about a technique together. And so we have different lab groups. These are your groups kind of for learning those together. And so each key technique is going to have someone that leads that. That person who leads it is going to find out a lot of information and present via discussion board on that technique for that week. All right, so you can see that Courtney Baker is the leader for group 1, Keegan for group 2, Ryland for group 3, and so forth. All right, so everyone is going to be the group leader once, which means you will be assigned to go find a lot of information and prepare a presentation on this information there. And there's information in Canvas on those key discussions is all the description of how to do this and how to do it well, expectations and so forth. And then everyone else in the group is going to kind of watch that presentation, and then we're going to work together to really figure out how to use that technique to design experiments and to analyze data associated with it. So essentially those key techniques discussions on those weeks of labs are just asynchronous. This is all happening via discussion board. The primary article presentations will be synchronous at lab time, and the discussion of Henrietta Lacks will be synchronous. When we are doing synchronous in lab, that is just probably about an hour, and it is 8:30 to 9:30. So you don't have to come in at 7:30, 8:30 to 9:30. The rest of this is asynchronous, usually via discussion boards, and we can talk more about that. But that is really sums up kind of all I want to talk about for now. Please read the syllabus, both the course and the lab syllabus, work your way through Canvas a little bit, try to make sure you understand kind of the ideas for the lab that we're going to do and the ideas of the jigsaw, and bring those questions to me. One thing you'll notice is that there's this Ask Dr. D. This is at the beginning of everything. This is a discussion board where you just can simply ask questions, and the reason I make this available this way is because if you have a question, chances are good a lot of people have the question. So when I reply to it, everyone can benefit from that question just as if we were in class. But if you do have something more private that you don't want to ask, quote unquote, in front of everyone, you can always email me and so forth. All right, so take a look through these things. You guys are all upper division students. You understand these things pretty well now. Go through Canvas, and then we'll look forward to seeing you on the 17th for our synchronous one. We'll have some fun activities then, and you can ask questions, but you can also email me with questions along the way. All right, everyone, hope you're doing well. Sorry for the long video, but hopefully that was beneficial. Thanks. Bye.